You know, front end steering play in these old Mercedes is a pretty common problem. It's because the cars are old and things wear out. It could be one of a number of different reasons why you get a lot of movement in your steering and the car tends to move around when you're going down the road, and that definitely ruins some of the joy of driving these old Benz. Well, the other day I was out driving my 59 220 SE and I noticed it's got a little more steering play than I had noticed in the past. So we got it up on the lift here and I want to show you what I found. Now watch what happens when I take this hub here and move it. Watch this tie rod move. Okay, see, I've got some movement. Well, you can imagine, you know, if you're going down the road and you're constantly correcting your steering, it's either the steering box is worn out or your tie rods are all worn out. So I'm going to show you this up close. You can see just how much play we have in that one link. Okay, there you can see it. Almost 1/4 of an inch. This one down here is tight, but that one up there is moving. And it's moving enough, you're going to get a lot of movement in that front tire and possibly some wheel shimmy at high speed. So from what you just saw, it's obvious I'm going to need a new tie rod. Some of these you might be able to go at the Classic Center, buy the whole rod with the new ball joint ends, and it's going to be very expensive. But there is another creative solution, and that's just to replace the ball joint ends. Ball joint ends are still available for almost all Mercedes from the 50s, you know, on up. So I went out and I got a couple of ball joint ends. What's interesting is one is left-hand thread and the other is a right-hand thread. And I decided when I got these, you know, I should shoot a video and maybe put together a kit with tools, instructions, and ball joint ends. For those of you out there that would want to do this on your own car, keep in mind, you know, you probably have to take it to the front end shop and get it properly aligned when you're all done. But at least I'll show you in that instructional video what you can do to get it approximately aligned before you head off down the road. So if you're interested in replacing the ball joints, you can see how you can check them yourself. You're going to have to get the car up, either jack it up and move the tires, maybe have someone move the tire back and forth. You can put your hand, if you can't see it, you could put your hand on the bottom of the ball joint and you can actually feel it moving internally and you'll know which one is bad. Now in this case, you know, obviously only the inboard one is bad, but I'm going to replace both. In fact, I'm going to replace all four because, you know, if one's worn out, the others are probably not far behind. I'm going to use my 1981 300 TD wagon while it's on the lift to show you a couple other problems that might be related to steering slop or steering play. Earlier I showed you this idler arm, and it comes off this mount on the side of the subframe. There's a long bolt and there's bushings in there. The bushings wear out, and when the bushings wear out and you move the wheel back and forth, if you move the wheel back and forth, and the best way to check if there's a problem with that is just move the wheel back and forth and you'll see that bolt moving or the arm itself, you know, moving side to side. And that's something that's very easy to replace and is often neglected. And the other thing you really want to take a close look is the amount of play in the steering box. This is the pitman arm coming off the steering box. Usually when you do front end work, you know, you're going to end up having to do something with that steering box. The car is over 150,000 miles, expect some play. You've got two options. You can try to adjust the steering box. I'm not going to go over that in this video, but this steering box, I see the adjustment has come all the way up, and I think I'm just going to replace the steering box with a rebuilt unit because I've already done all this work. But the way you check this is you move the tire back and forth, and you notice there's no slop in the new tie rods, okay? So that's not the problem, but if I move the tire just a little bit back and forth like that and look at the steering wheel is not moving. So that means the steering box has excessive wear inside And that's going to be the next thing I change on this 300 TD wagon, and hopefully the last as far as the front end goes. I just finished installing those tie rods after doing all 4 ends, and what a difference. If you remember what this looked like at the beginning of this video, you're going to be impressed because there's no slop anymore in this. You know, it's nice and tight. I can rock it back and forth. There's just the slightest amount, and that's probably in an old steering box. So if you're interested in this kit, be sure and check out the links in the description below this video, and it'll take you right to it on my website.